We are live, and it is summer vacation for sure. Got the whole kid crew here at the house, and I think they're going to go out and about here shortly. But we got a lot to talk about today, and I'm actually super excited. 12:30, we're going to bring on Izzy. She's going to come to us live as well. Now, if you have any questions or comments, one of the reasons why we go live here is so that you can ask questions real time. And so, feel free to ask and clarify. And if we know, we'll do the best we can to answer. But essentially, this is a weekly live recording that we talk about things that have happened, things that are happening, city council recaps, some developments under review, all of that good stuff. Now, there's a ton of information about Fort Collins that is just out there and available, so long as you're willing to look for it. And for many, many years, for 30 years of my life, I really didn't pay attention too closely to city council or what the city of Fort Collins city staff is putting out there as far as information about our city and our government. And this show kind of came as a result of information that just didn't feel like it was hitting home. And so whether you're a first-time listener or you come listen every week, hopefully this information is just kind of helpful in the sense of understanding the area, Northern Colorado, as this is living in Fort Collins. But Fort Collins is a region. Northern Colorado is a region, and Fort Collins just happens to be the big player of that region. But information for you to help make educated and informed decisions. But today we've got a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump in. And then again, Izzy's going to join us around 12:30. We are talking some traffic information, schools, and some legislation from the state of Colorado, because there's a lot of it, and we're not going to dive too deep into it. Kind of stick high level. But one thing I'm excited about coming to Fort Collins is a meal prep business that you can eat, whether it's frozen, prepared food and meals, or you can eat there as well, and it's super affordable for a 12 to 14 ounce container. $7.50 to $9.50 for a frozen meal, or $8.20 if you'd like it fresh. And if you order more than 21 meals, it jumps down to $6.52 a meal. This is going in a location, Lone Stop, and where Cairo Now used to be. Kind of where First Watch is, Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins, Midtown off of College Avenue. I will tell you, for the longest time, I thought Cairo Now was Churro Now, and I thought, who opens up a churro store in Fort Collins? But it was Cairo. It was bad education on my part. And but anyways, this is going to go there. And I will tell you that I could see myself being a solid user of this kind of new to town location. Now, a lot of these meal prep businesses are virtual only, and I've used some, but one of my biggest barriers to using them has been really the amount of disposal waste that is created because of the shipment of these, refrigerated boxes and all of the insulation material that they use that you throw away. And it just seemed like a lot. And then obviously there's a lot of actual work that needs to be done as far as the prep side of things go. Camera's acting a little funky, so we'll try to keep on top of that. But I could see myself using that, and for $6.50 a meal to $7.50 a meal to $9.50 a meal, all the way down to $6.50 if you order more than 21. I could absolutely see myself using that. Opening date is September to October. Speaking about restaurants that are opening, I just drive by it every day and get excited yet nervous that Krispy Kreme is just crushing their build. And I'm like, man, how are they going to open in 2025? I would have to imagine they're going to open in late 2024. And so I got to get my dates understood, but they've got to be opening here pretty soon. They've got their exterior basically built out, color schemes done. Scary things in my life ahead, because I am a donut guy for sure. Restaurants, retails in Fort Collins. Let's see here. Fort Collins is considering using eminent domain if they're unable to come to a purchase agreement with the company who owns the Albertsons on North Fort Collins. And the company that owns this is they bought it in 2020. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, Realty Income acquired the building in 2021 as part of a larger portfolio of buildings that they purchased. But Fort Albertsons has been closed since 2014. And North College Avenue has seen some massive revitalization over the last decade. And so having a 50,000 square foot empty building has just not been great. And City of Fort Collins is considering using eminent domain. They're trying to purchase it directly from the company, and there's still good conversations going, but they're exploring this option of eminent domain because there is some dollars between the Urban Renewal Authority that are kind of earmarked for this building, and some potential uses for this building are a community hub, particularly for the Spanish-speaking community, a library, affordable housing, which I don't know if I'll see that take place, maybe, a workforce development center, and a hub for recreation or entertainment. It's kind of a commercial area. Not kind of, it is a commercial area. That King Supers development right there is really popping. Development south is going on. People are pouring money into North College Avenue, which we're going to talk to you about here relatively shortly, because there was kind of a wave maker of news this last week in regards to a building along North College Avenue. But I kind of see it more of potentially a library would be cool for the area, because otherwise you've got the library off Oak Street, so that's not too far away. And then you've got the Harmony Library that's going to be relocating to that Southeast Community Center on the southeast side of town. So it wouldn't be a bad idea for North, because you could easily separate Fort Collins into North Fort Collins, Midtown, South Fort Collins, as far as if you wanted to separate it. There's so many different ways to separate it: quadrants, areas, districts for city council we've talked about in the past. But you could easily separate into thirds of North, Midtown, Downtown, and then South for sure. So that would be big news for the North Fort Collins specifically. That building does just kind of generate a lot of kind of loitering and kind of pop-up shops as far as for some people who are experiencing homelessness and or transients. So having that area kind of operational. Because one of the things that I talk to a lot of our clients about, especially if they're, buying a house and not necessarily going to be moving into it right away, is the worst type of property is a vacant property, just because you're not in there, you're not watching it. People could, you could have squatters, you could have a big leak. Now a commercial building is a little bit different, but at the same time, having that activity, people walking in and out, it just kind of buildings are meant to be used, not to sit vacant. Systems start to fail, furnaces, electrical, plumbing, all that kind of stuff. Buildings are meant to be used. So a vacant building, definitely not a great thing. Interesting timing of Poudre School District submitting a new policy prohibiting dating relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Now, Superintendent Brian Kingsley has been in hot water really for the last 2, 3, 4 months. We have a podcast for Collins Fellas. I think it'd be great to have him on. So if you have a connection to Brian Kingsley, it'd probably be a little bit of a hot topic type of conversation. But send me an email or make a comment. Would love to reach out to have him. I don't know if he would jump on there or not, but there was kind of word that, hey, there's been some hiring, some promotions that maybe aren't necessarily earned, but earned by way of relationships. And the kind of details, I don't need to say kind of what I've heard, but essentially an individual and Brian had a relationship, and that individual got a pretty substantial raise and new position. That is hearsay. Don't have any actual facts to back that up, but the article suggests that there is no relationship to the prior article that suggests that Brian Kingsley is, kind of being investigated. I don't know if that's the right word, investigated for his relationships. And apparently there was a prior investigation that Brian, passed with flying colors. So he's not too worried about this one. So we will see what happens, but this is moving forward. And what's interesting though is, I don't know how many people this would affect, as it's, kind of probably not too many, but it does state that if you are currently in a marriage, civil union, or dating relationship which would violate this policy, one or the other employee would have to go secure other employment in another department and or work site. And if you can't accommodate that, they have to resign within 90 calendar days. So, I mean, pretty interesting. I don't think that's going to impact too many individuals, but one of our largest employers is Poudre School Districts. We got CSU, UC Health, HP, Broadcom, Intel, Agilent Technologies, Otterbox, Woodward Governor. But then we have City of Fort Collins, Larimer County, and Poudre School District is probably one of the top 10 employers, maybe top 15 employers in Fort Collins. So it's not like it's a small group of people that this could potentially impact, but probably not too many people that are currently in that situation. But I will say my sister and brother-in-law are both teachers at a school in Greeley. Now, granted, they were together, married, moved to schools. So this was very transparent prior to doing anything. But if they were, and my sister would be considered in her current role, which she's moving back to being just a teacher, but in her current role, she is a teacher of teachers, so possibly a supervisory role, and they would be potentially impacted on this if they were in the Poudre School District, which they're not. I think they're in the Weld County RE4 district. So Poudre School District, transparency. I would say like the theme of this show that it started with was transparency. Again, we've talked about it last week, was land development code change that felt just like it was getting like pushed underneath the table, under the rug, trying to be passed. Poudre School District, boundary changes, closures, transparency, just didn't feel like it was happening. So I would say transparency is the theme of the hour for City of Fort Collins, which definitely not a bad thing. And actually, the real estate industry is going through that right now. And it's super interesting to see kind of where kind of all the chips fall, because right now they're suggesting that the MLS, you can't offer compensation for buyer's agents moving forward as of I think it's like August 17th with the NAR settlement. But then you have some MLSs saying, no, that's going the opposite way of transparency. So we're going to say, screw you, settlement. We are going to allow it and continue to have it be transparent so that just everyone can see what buyer's agents are being compensated. So interesting. I would say in today's world, transparency is important. You can pretty much find any information on anybody. So all the skeletons in the closet are coming out by way of relationships and then policies being made retroactively to kind of limit those type of experiences. So, and we were joking at a closing the other day, there's this loan packet that's this thick. And, per the closer, they go, really only about 4 to 5 of these documents are really important. The rest are due to some individual saying, well, I didn't know, or this happened. And so there's a lawsuit. And so they added an extra page. And now these loan document packages are just so thick to protect anybody and everybody. So I would say transparency. Speaking of Poudre School District, while yes, they halted their plans to close schools in 2025 to 2026 and beyond, they still are trying to figure out whether it's funding that they are going to need to handle by way of maybe an increased mill levy that if you're living in Fort Collins and are a property owner could affect you and I. And even if you're a renter, like property taxes affect everybody, because I would say recently we were looking at all of our lease renewals for our rental properties. We had huge increases on insurance and our property taxes. And we were really relatively, in my opinion, fair with our renewal rates to our current tenants. But then on those that left, we pumped those trying to get the market rate because, hey, we're going to have to kind of subsidize the increases that we didn't put on our current tenant base. And so if you're renting or anything like that, it would impact you just because those kind of fees and costs get kind of pushed down to the renter. But they are still trying to figure out consolidation of schools. And a few of the things that they are looking at doing is moving Bamford Elementary School out of Timnath, which is interesting because I believe Timnath had voted on keeping Timnath kids in Timnath. So I don't know how that will, play. Intergovernmental agreements, I'm sure, will come into play, fights, possible lawsuits. So we will see how that is taken. But Bamford Elementary School, Bamford, I think, is Loveland. So that's not keeping Timnath kids in Timnath. So Bamford is Loveland. There's the most interesting boundaries in all of Fort Collins because of what is Loveland, Fort Collins, and Timnath is basically at County Road 5 and Highland Meadows Parkway area. You've got Loveland, Windsor, and Fort Collins all literally in corners, and it's a little blurry because you've got Loveland on the west side of County Road 5, but then you've got Fort Collins, and then it's easy once you see a map, of course, but it just doesn't make a ton of sense as you're driving because you're like Highland Meadows to my left, Loveland to my left, but Loveland to my right, but Fort Collins is right behind me. Anyways, Bamford moving out of the Timnath Middle High School system, which is in Loveland, and into Preston Middle School and Foster Ridge High School. Makes sense because it is the only Loveland school in the Poudre School District. Loveland addressed school in the public school, Poudre School District. Explore the relationship between Irish and Putnam, which are only a mile apart, and dual language programs, school of choice, how that all will work. And then moving the Poudre Community Academy to a new location and move the Transition Pathways program to a new location as well. So there are still, financial moves that need to make place, capacity issues that are going to have to be addressed for Poudre School District moving forward. But we will see kind of how that all plays out. But no schools closing, and definitely super important. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but the Lyric, Fort Collins Independent Movie Theater and Art Space, is up for sale for a mere $6.75 million. Now, it's an 11,000 square foot building. It's a big spot, and it's a big lot as well. I'm curious. Let's look real quick. I'm going to do this really fast. And actually, I'll let you guys see what I do because I think it's kind of interesting. I love Larimer County. Larimer County's, let's see here. We'll do stop screen share. We'll bring it back in, but I wanted to show something different. Larimer County has a phenomenal website. If you guys aren't familiar with Larimer County's website, I mean, it is a great tool, tons of data, pretty user-friendly. But what I'm doing is I want to see the lot size of the Lyric. And so they've got the address in here, 1209 North College Avenue. So I'm going to come in here, 1209 College. We'll give us a couple options. Here is the Lyric, and it shows us a 1.5 acre property. So, a pretty great size property. So you got 11,000 square feet, 6.75 acres. Let's get going here. But I want to show you guys my screen here as well, because, it says like, it's this great opportunity. They've got, bookings out until 2026. And it's a wonderful building. It's beautiful. Especially, I was just eating at Crispin Greaves, which is kind of catty corner to their old building, which was this hole in the wall, tiny little movie studio. But one thing that has happened in Fort Collins, and it seems like it's a matter of if, not when, but there's going to be a 200 to 300 bed homeless shelter built on the north side of town, off of, and I'm going to show you guys this, and because here's what my thoughts are. It's going to be built off of Hibden Court and College Avenue. And this right here is the Lyric. And here is where this 200 to 300 bed homeless shelter would be built. So, and it's not even through it's not even close to being a shovel in the ground right now, but we're probably 2 to 3 years off. And the Lyric, and I am making, this is my guess, my opinion, but they're probably very concerned about having 200, 300, bed homeless shelter to the north of them. And if their movie patrons stop coming late at night, because, hey, whether it's movies or concerts, maybe it's a late at night type deal, and maybe their patrons don't feel super safe, even though this is going to be a world-class building, state-of-the-art, supposedly, and a lot of this could be a nothing burger because maybe it's just very well maintained and the operations are good. City of Fort Collins City Police are on it and all of that. But I will say, if I have a $7 million asset and there's a potential of that $7 million going down to $2 million, $3 million, or worthless because the danger, the violence, the crime, whatever, possibly all of these hypotheticals, the risk for me probably isn't necessarily super worth it. So I'm guessing that, because part of what they say is there's no real reason, it's in a great financial health. It's just time for us to move on. Sure, because absolutely everyone wants to make the best case for the property to sell. They don't want to say, hey, we're moving because there's a 300-bed homeless shelter moving within a block of ours to the north, and we don't want to take that risk, so we're out. But I will say it's definitely a big bummer, because along this North College Avenue, there has just been phenomenal development along here. Behind Jack's, there's just great apartments and condos and development going on. That Albertson's is just right up here. So, if Fort Collins buys that, North College Avenue could be seen as a great opportunity now and moving into the future for development. But it also shows that owners of assets and buildings and property out there are quite concerned about what this could do to their property and their building and everything along those lines. I will also say, though, that as Fort Collins grows and becomes attractive, both as an investment and things of that nature, at the current location of the mission, which is Jefferson and Linden, a small little building. We volunteered there. It was great to give back. But right in the heart of downtown, there's people like, Ty Fulcher, owner of the Union, and his partner, who bought, invested, and redeveloped the Union, what is now the Union, which is a beautiful building, facility, restaurant, just north on the north side of Jefferson. And they said, you know what, doesn't matter that there's the mission right there. We think that this is a great investment now and into the long term. I will say they are very intelligent business people and kind of knew that the mission was probably going to be relocated. So their property value is probably going to increase when the mission moves, comparatively to possibly when the mission moves to the Hibden Court off, kind of near Hickory on North College Avenue. Possibly those property values decline. It is to be seen, but that's a big risk. And if somebody's in a position that they don't necessarily need to take that risk, I get where he's coming from of potentially wanting to sell. We're timing this kind of perfectly because we are at 22 minutes and Izzy's going to jump on and join us here in about 8 minutes or so. But we're going to talk about what happened at City Council. City Council had a work session. Difference between a work session and a regular session is work sessions really just kind of them time, kind of hash, chop it up. No public comments. Specifically, let's get down to the nitty gritty. What's going on? What do we need to vote on? What does city staff need to get working on? And kind of direction given by City Council. And then city staff comes back and presents deals, and city council members kind of are presented great information. Again, this is a recap of anywhere between 20 to 60 minutes of what's going on at City of Fort Collins, City Council, what's happening, all of that good stuff. So, but if you want to watch the actual videos, there is a City of Fort Collins video archive. That's all you got to put into Google, City of Fort Collins video archive. And you can watch the actual live stream and or rerun of these work sessions and get really granular detail, as obviously I'm going to only be able to show, and talk about some of the high points. But there was 3 items that they wanted to talk about. There are 3 work items. Let's see here. Some kind of public comment issue, rule changes. And then there was a review of the 2024 legislative session for Colorado and as it pertains to Fort Collins, which lots of things passed. Real estate things passed, land use stuff. Just a lot of stuff. And then finally, also City of Fort Collins traffic, which was super interesting. We're going to bring Izzy on and we're going to kind of dive in that together. And there's some great information. So stick around as we're going to dive into it. And Izzy's a self-proclaimed okay driver. I won't throw her under the bus too much. But all right. Some of the rule changes that City of Fort Collins is considering for regular work session or regular city council sessions are limiting public comment to 60 to 90 minutes at the beginning and then allowing for unlimited at the end so that they can get to kind of the discussion items sooner and not at midnight. And And then they're going to potentially randomize who gets it. City council is kind of pushing 90 minutes versus 60 minutes. And how do you select these participants if there's only a limitation to them? And I've been watching city council for 3 years, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, consistently every Tuesday. On a rerun, every meeting I watch. But I would say there's a lot of public comment, and I could see how, a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of them are still working, not necessarily retired. It's not a paid position. It is a paid position for city council and mayor, but not to the point where you can, unless you're, wealthy on the side, and then you do this as kind of just purely volunteer. A lot of these people are still working full time. And like myself, I was thinking about it myself when I was listening to this work session. I was like, all right, I wake up at 4:20, and we got city council work session tonight. And even though it's Monday, we're going to pretend it's Tuesday. Full day, 8 to 5. I got, our team photos we're taking at 5 o'clock. So it is a full day for us today. We got live events, all that good stuff. And then I've got to scramble over to City Fort Collins, and I've probably already read their packet, which could be anywhere between 100 to 1,000 pages long. Hopefully I've read some of it, skimmed it at least. And then public comment. Maybe there's a very contentious issue that's going on, and public comment goes on for 3 hours, which is absolutely possible. And we as a city council don't get to our discussion items until 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And we're supposed to make these informed, coherent discussions and votes when it's 12 o'clock at night. And maybe I've been awake since 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, that's not the city's problem. Maybe I've agreed to this to be a city council member or whatever, mayor. And I need to be responsible to the ability, the potential of this being a midnight conversation. And so all of that being said, I definitely agree with it. Let's keep it 60 to 90 minutes. And then from there, it's basically, from there, it's basically going to be the discussion items and then a potential more public comment after all of that. So I definitely agree with the 90 minutes. Randomize who gets to do it. Sure. Because there are people who talk every week, which is great. Staying involved with City of Fort Collins. Your average citizen of Fort Collins is a pretty common comment to hear every Tuesday. But these people are very involved and very concerned citizens, which is great. But there are probably items and days and times where maybe somebody does have something specific they want to talk to that's really at their heart, or maybe they're an expert in. And if people are kind of hogging the microphone every week, that's something that we should take into consideration. I'm going to share my screen. Izzy is here, so I'm going to bring her in. But she's going to kind of stick in the background for now. What's up, Izzy?
Hi. I heard your comment about my driving.
Good. Perfect. I was very, very nice, very kind about it. I'm going to share the screen. We're still on a few before we get to the traffic right now, but you can kind of hang and watch. But now this is just very high level, but tons of House bills and Senate bills. HB, House Bill 1313, housing and transit-oriented communities, accessory dwelling units. By June of 2025, the state of Colorado you have to allow accessory dwelling units in specific municipalities that meet thresholds of population and things of that nature. And they're allowing this year so that you can change some land use code to be afforded grant money, state money, and all this kind of stuff to help individuals be able to build ADUs on their property all over Colorado. So I could build one, like I said, in my backyard, starting in June of 2023. Minimum parking requirements prohibit landscape practices for water conservation. And again, a lot of these are just kind of high level, but we can definitely go into them if you guys would like to in the future. Electric vehicle charging system permits, state vehicle idling standards, House bills for environmental transportation. Housing, prohibit residential occupancy limits. Again, we talked about this prior. Fort Collins had what was called a U+2 rule, no longer in effect. I believe it's as of July 1st of this year. So, and we were listening to city staff not too long ago. They were saying, hey, they were going to do citations up through May, and even those really weren't going to do anything. And now with the amount of time that it takes to get from a citation to an actual like work stream and workflow, pretty much if you've got more than 3 unrelated people living in your house, it does not matter anymore. But there are things that City of Fort Collins are going to consider about how do we make sure neighborhood, protection of neighborhoods, safety of individuals in a house. You don't want to have 50 people living in a house just because, hey, if there's an emergency or things of that nature, could be unsafe. So there's some things that are going to happen, but that is a big one for Fort Collins specifically. Sustainable affordable housing assistance. Judicial law enforcement. What's interesting is right here, motorcycle lane filtering and passing, basically lane splitting for motorcycles. And this law hasn't come into effect, but it was funny listening to Kelly Olson. He's like, I've never seen it in my entire time living in Fort Collins. But in the last month or so, I've seen over 5 motorcycles pass through. Now there's some rules. These bills, these House bills, and then Senate bill, HB, SB, are very long, complex. The language is not super easy to understand. And we're going to be talking, Izzy and I and our other assistant, Elizabeth, about some of the House bills that affect rentals and landlords tomorrow. And, we're really trying to figure out this language and how it affects us and impacts us. But a lot of legislation came through. Let's see here. They're talking about should uniformed officers be able to have firearms in city government buildings or specific buildings. And then let's see here. Simplify grace period noncompliance for digital accessibility. So it was interesting to hear, like, they don't want PDFs for some of this information on for city government documents. So that 1,000-page agenda that I was talking about has to be in a different form. And I think that's because of limitations. There's some disabilities that don't provide for PDFs to function well with their disability. And what the government's saying is, hey, you've got to allow for people with disabilities to have access to this as fairly as anybody else. And so that's going to be a big undertaking. They're going to have to bring in a consultant, money, and move forward. All right, Izzy, I'm bringing you in.
Okay.
So, one of the better drivers in Fort Collins, from what I've been told.
Honestly, what we're about to talk about, I don't know how I feel about it.
Yes, I mean, I just got a ticket the other day, and I knew it was on Drake and LeMay. I was hurrying for God knows why. I can't remember why, but I absolutely got I even looked at it. I was like, I know I'm passing it, and I looked at it and smiled. I mean, it's a red light ticket, so I got to look at the mailbox coming through. But what Fort Collins has is it's called Vision Zero. Did you have a chance to look at what that Vision Zero is, Izzy?
Yeah.
So basically what they want is 0 fatal or serious crashes on the city's transportation network. And it's by a certain time. It doesn't have it on here, but I want to say it's like by 2030. It's a pretty quick Vision Zero. And a lot of this is through, speed control, roundabouts. There's going to be an underpass at Harmony and McMurray where the power trail would always cut off because that was a big, issue with bikers and vehicles. But Fort Collins wants to be a very safe community. I've gotten into a handful of accidents in the area, and fortunately, no one has ever gotten hurt. But this graph right here shows between 2019 and 2023, our injury accidents has gone up quite a bit. And as a video that's going to be coming out here shortly, which I don't know if I got to reshoot. Izzy, do you ever have those videos that you shoot that you're like, that sucked, I got to reshoot that one?
But then often they do pretty well, so it depends.
Yeah, I mean, I just shot one about, population in Fort Collins that's, it's kind of flatlined, and that one's going to come out here in a few weeks. And that's been since 2020. And my first, when I saw this graph, I was like, all right, well, population's increased. And I was like, well, wait a second. It hasn't really. So this isn't, there's not really a ton of population adjustment for this between 277 accidents. The per capita would be probably pretty similar because our population hasn't really increased too dramatically since that time to 648 injury accidents in Fort Collins. So not a super great stat for Fort Collins because we've done videos in the past of crime in Fort Collins, and Fort Collins crime is great. It's actually on a downward trend comparatively to the rest of the state. But this is not great.
See, drivers are a little crazy here. But 2020 isn't a super fair thing to look at because everyone was at home.
Fair. And they did say when they were watching, or when the city council were reporting, they can't report on time periods previous to 5 years, more than 5 years away. But I would say 2019 is probably a fair stat because that's pre-COVID, but 2020, you're right. Those are some probably not fair numbers. That's a great point. I mean, those are COVID years. People are off the roads. I still think people are not nearly as on the roads as much as they used to be because of remote work.
Right.
But, and this talks about, the fatalities in blue right here versus, and how much each crash costs, pedestrian fatalities, and how many pedestrian accidents there are. But, it's definitely increased from 10 to 15. So 50% increase since 2019. So it's kind of going in the opposite direction of vision zero. So we need a little peak for us to get there.
Do you know if this has been something they've been working on for a while, or is if something sparked this happening?
Vision Zero has been a plan of theirs. It's a strategic plan. They have all these different strategic plans, carbon emissions by, 2030, carbon neutral by 2050, 80% reduction by 2030. So they have all these strategic plans, which is really pretty cool. So it's been working in a while, but like, you'll see things like, obviously, public transportation, our city sales tax that they just passed, some of that's a relation to our active modes plan and, the city sales tax to try to get people out of their cars and into public transportation. So, it's definitely important to them. And being a platinum rated bike community, one of 5 in the United States, we can't be a platinum rated bike community and then have it like this bad trajectory of accidents. So I think it's important for the brand of Fort Collins, but also, like people want to be safe in Fort Collins. So
the bikes are a part of the pedestrian.
I believe so. Yeah. A big part, I believe, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, they're not big numbers, but these are true numbers, right? So it's like, you don't want to discount anything. Just like we talked about previously, with drug fatalities, it's like, these are numbers on a chart, but they are true representations of individuals.
Right.
So definitely want to, don't want to discount anything. Here are the current 6 traffic light cameras. And what these numbers are speeding violations, which currently the red light traffic, they don't ticket for speeding. They only ticket for violating a red light. These are, if they did ticket for speeding, here's how many on a monthly basis would be ticketed at each location. So Mulberry and Shields, 4 and 12. Prospect and Shields is the worst by far. Like
that's where I got mine.
Yeah, I mean they say they were like, all right, the reasons why it was kind of a downhill trajectory, tons of students. That's kind of really what it got down to. And also the speed limit decreases there at 35 miles per hour rather than 40 miles per hour, I think, at the majority of these other ones. And these 16,000 are for only those going more than 11 miles per hour.
So this is just going 11 miles an hour over the speed limit at any time, not when it's red, just at any time going 11 miles an hour.
Anytime. Yep. And the reason why they kind of put it at 11 miles per hour is because that's where there's no arguing. They say there's no arguing. Hey, maybe 4 to 5 miles per hour, you can argue I wasn't speeding or I didn't know I was speeding. But also additionally, this is where injuries like skyrocket as far as like fatalities. If you are going more than 11 miles per hour over 40 miles per hour, there's a slide here that we'll get to. Maybe is it next? No. Yeah. We'll get to it shortly, but it talks about like the percentage of accidents that like result in serious injury or fatality. So when it's above 11 miles per hour, they really want to kind of hedge that. So I mean, it's $40 for a red light ticket. I think it's $40 or $75. I can't remember. What did you just got one? You said, what is it?
I got one a few years ago, and the first time it was, I want to say 40 something, but then when you get
Yeah.
it a second time, it jumps up.
Yeah. So I think like red lights are like 75 or 80, and then speeding tickets, like the vans that are parked on the sides, those are $40, but no points. And that's a big issue here because you have 12 points on your license, and but these tickets are not point generating unless they go, I think it's above 25 miles per hour. So above 25 miles per hour, the police officer will show up to your house and issue a citation in person. But so what they want to do is they really want to start figuring out how do we figure out this speeding, because we think speeding is going to be a direct correlation and causation of serious injuries and accidents. So that's definitely on like kind of the crosshairs what this entire conversation was. So as you can see, Fort Collins is on a grid system. It's very much apparent here. And this is a tier 1 and tier 2 corridors, which what these corridors would be if this passes is essentially there would be a sign on these corridors saying you are entering a speed regulated zone, which would then allow for automated vehicle information systems, AVIS, a technology to issue citations for people speeding. And what City Fort Collins Council session was talking about was like, should we just do tier 1 or tier 2? And the majority of people were like, let's do tier 1 and 2, so that at least we can kind of like, have more rather than have to come back and vote again in a couple of years. But you can very much see it's mostly the arteries, the arteries going, north and south. So that's Overland right here, Taft, Shields, College, LeMay, all the way down, Timberline, and then Ziegler right here. And then, north, south, kind of starting really kind of at Prospect, honestly, not really even on Mulberry, which I guess Mulberry makes sense because Mulberry is kind of this dense area that you don't get a ton of speeding. But if they do tier 2, they'll do it there.
What's the difference? Is like tier 1 like the most important areas, and then tier 2?
That's what they signify. Tier 1 is what they think is like the most important. Here's where the majority of our speeding happens. And if we can get some kind of automated, AVIS systems, that's, duplicate. But anyways, AVIS technology there, then we can limit that. And this is what an AVIS technology is right here. So what they would do is they would hire out a third-party company to basically run this for them. And then they could move anywhere up to 30 days or earlier if they wanted to pay more. But there's only gonna be 2 of them. So I felt in my head when I was listening to this, I was like, I feel like there could be like not that this is good, but I feel like there could be a Facebook group that's literally like Avis systems, and they just update where they fucking are each month and just like, don't speed on this little section. That's kind of not, playing by the, with the intention of it, but this could issue tickets up to 3 lanes wide in one direction. So College Avenue could be on College Avenue. And, it could generate some significant revenue. It would be paying for itself. I think that's either going to be I want to show you that one.
There'd only be 2 of those things and moved all years.
Yeah. 2 of these things for the entire city of Fort Collins.
Oh, okay.
And then they'd move them. And they'd either move them every 30 days or less. But if you moved them less than 30 days, it costs more money. But I would be like, dude, let's do every 10 days. Like, I feel like 30 days somebody could get used to, like, oh yeah, hey guys, don't speed on Horsetooth this week.
And I'm guessing the cost of putting them in every zone would be wild.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have to get down to it in a little bit to see if they update or if they tell us what the actual costs are. I think maybe they do. These graphs are what shows at crashes a trend line for red light tickets. And these are some of our oldest red light zones. I remember growing up here, like that was the only 2 that you really had to worry about. Specifically this one, that was like the OG, Drake and College. And then Timberline and Harmony has been there a long time as well. But like, you knew, don't speed on don't go through a red light on these intersections. And it's pretty cool. It goes all the way back to 2007 here for both of them. But it shows how many red light tickets are given out and, the trend line over the last basically, 20 years. So the theory is if they can do this for speeding and have these kind of AVIS, technology throughout Fort Collins, the theory is that speeding tickets should go down and people will not speed as much. There's still going to be people who speed, but the hope is that people speed less fatal injuries and serious injuries throughout Fort Collins. Here was what I was talking about earlier, percentage, the likelihood of a fatality at 20 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, and 40 miles per hour. And you can imagine if it's at 73% at 40 miles per hour, if it increased by 11 miles per hour, what that could, jump to. So pretty scary stuff. And the hope is obviously that we can limit that moving forward. These are citations. I was when I first saw this slide, honestly, I was like, are these like ages 10 to 19-year-olds, 20 to 24, and of how many people get tickets?
Yeah,
I was like, oh shit, that makes a lot of sense. It's freaking 16-year-olds getting all these tickets. But no, it's how fast over you're going. And so the majority of people go 10 to 19 over, which is still significant. But I mean, 20 to 24 over, I don't think I won't ask you because I don't want to put you in the hot spot. I don't think I've ever gone 20, maybe.
You've never done 55 on college.
55 on college. Yeah, but 55 on college is still only 15 miles per hour over.
Okay. Then yeah, no, I don't.
You'd have to go 60 miles per hour on college to get into this 20 to 25 miles per hour. Yeah. That takes I'm in a truck, of course. Maybe if I had a really fast car, I could see myself quickly getting up to that. But I think my truck would take forever just to get to 60 miles per hour and then have to stop. So, who knows? But pretty scary that they've got some people that are going 40 miles per hour over the speeding ticket, or miles per hour over speeding. And these are actual police citations. So I guess, this is those vans that are sitting out there and taking you. But shit, it's just wild.
Can any of this count on I-25 if it's in the city of Fort Collins?
No. I believe it's city of Fort Collins proper, because then you get out into if you're outside of proper Fort Collins, then it's sheriff. Okay. So it wouldn't be city of Fort Collins.
On the slide up up one. It says that the two focuses, one is ensure enforcement is equitable. Because I remember years ago asking someone like, why don't they put these things everywhere so that people just get tickets when they're supposed to, and it's not based on if a police officer sees you. Yeah. And someone said something about it could be seen as not being fair or equal, like targeting people or people that don't have an insurance. Have you ever heard anything of that, or what they mean by making it equitable?
Well, almost opposite from what I was listening to at the city council work session is, if you get a ticket on this like Avis system or Avis technology, doesn't matter who you are, what you are. If you're 11 miles per hour over, you're getting a ticket. So it shows that because like a lot of people that if they get pulled over, they could be given a warning from officers, and they're saying, hey, this isn't equitable. Why are you're disproportionate to, let's just call it, non-white Fort Collins citizens versus white Fort Collins citizens. You could see maybe more warnings here versus citations here. And so there could be an argument, human error element and all that. But this is saying, no, there's just pure equity. Doesn't matter who you are, you're getting a citation if you're 11 miles per hour over. And so it cuts down on that kind of consideration of non-equitable, warnings and all that kind of stuff. This was talking about court caseload, because if we do have these, there's going to be more people who fight them. There's going to be more people who go through the court system. And, so they're talking about they need one full-time municipal court clerk, one full-time attorney, and one legal assistant, equating to $302,000 a year. What do you think about that, Izzy? Do you think that's worth it?
I was kind of wondering if like with this whole thing, like the first point is to get to Vision Zero, but then with adding these things, the tickets, you said will go down. I was first thinking would go up because people are going to speed anyway, but maybe over time they go down, and then that would pay for the staff they need to do this. I'm like one of those people who's like gonna have to be better about driving, so I'm not like super pumped about it. But overall, I do think that considering this is such a bike central area, people love to be. I always see people walking. I tell people all the time moving here that everyone's out and about. That having more enforcement and staffing to allow for this isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, let me go full screen here. Second shot. I agree. People, the argument for at city work session is that, citizens are saying this is a money grab. And because you're going to see here, I'm going to skip one more. You're going to see here, actually, the revenue that it's going to generate is just sickening. It's going to generate $3.5 million a year. So, because like they're talking about, that one screen, that's just a monthly basis. 16,000 people speeding at Prospect and Shields. That's on a monthly basis.
Oh,
And
the expense for the Avis is right there.
Is it? Yeah. Expense. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, because it's probably a subscription model, movement. But damn, $2 million a year. But it doesn't matter because it shows that it pays for itself. And these numbers were super, super conservative. They were like, we estimate that 70% of that 60,000 is going to decrease. They think that 70% are not going to speed anymore because of that.
Yeah.
So they are kind of accounting for that. But here's all of the, so they're Vision Zero coordinate. They're asking for $624,000 a year. And because they're going to see a huge spike in citations in municipal courts, there's going to need to be additional FTEs. If you ever hear that, Izzy, full-time employment for City of Fort Collins is what an FTE is. But it's going to increase our annual expenses by $624,000. But it doesn't matter. The goal here too, per what they're saying, and as all this revenue is going to go towards city safety, transportation, all that kind of stuff to try to make it a more safe city. Across the board, city council, we're like all like on board with this. Like, yes, like how can we start this like tomorrow? But there's going to be some time that it takes to go through because like CDOT, Colorado Division of Transportation, because US 287 is a highway, so it has to be approved through some of them. So there's some hoops that has to be jumped through, but it shows this is going to be a huge revenue generator for the city of Fort Collins. And the hope, obviously, of that number from everyone was saying, it goes down. But the real hope is, $6 million is a great number. But the real hope is that obviously like Vision Zero gets attained, or at least we see that peak that we were just kind of talking about at the beginning of like, all right, we've been increasing to all these, fatalities, 620 accidents that had injuries to now, going down the opposite way. So, if we see trend lines like that, I would have to imagine we'd get like 4 of these systems or 10 or how many ever. Yeah. And Fort Collins would be a very boring town as far as speeding goes, but maybe boring's good.
Were there any other arguments against it? It was just the money part?
Yeah, that was kind of the main one. They were just talking about like, is this a money grab? And no, because the money that they're going to generate is going to go to a specific area, right, for like City of Fort Collins traffic and road safety. So no, this is kind of these funds are earmarked. They like the one thing that they didn't want is like one of the council members was like, hey, we still want, police officers out there giving citations. And the City of Fort Collins police was like, absolutely, we're still going to be doing that because these tickets are just going to be financial tickets and not point driven unless you're above 25 miles per hour. So they still, his point was there's people in Fort Collins that they don't give a shit about if they get a $40 or $75, ticket. They got places to be, people to see type deal. They're just going to speed regardless and just pay the fines. And unless there's a police officer out there that is also giving a ticket that's going to give you a 4 points. If you're 15 miles per hour over is a 4-point ticket. And that was probably the biggest like concern is like, we don't want to replace police officers. We want to kind of like supercharge the safety of Fort Collins, but still maintain a personnel presence. Yeah. That's probably the main thing. But here are kind of their goals or their recommendations. So adopt all red light camera intersections. So meaning they could turn into speed lights as well. Adopt tier 1 and tier 2, but really it's tier 2 is what they're looking for. State of Colorado had some ordinance changes. That's kind of what prompted this discussion was like, they were going to give some funding, I believe it was, to municipalities, so long as they get these, implemented into their city code. They want to add 2 AVIS. So that's Avis technology systems, into the tier 2 corridors. They want the funds to support that municipal court, city attorneys, and I think that's a data analyst, PDT. Recommend surplus funds to support additional traffic safety. So like also like education, Project Zero, equipment, all this kind of stuff to try to just get Fort Collins to continue to be more and more safe. Provide biannual updates. Okay, when you hear biannual, Izzy, what do you hear? Do you hear twice a year, or do you hear once every 2 years?
I hear twice a year.
Me too, but it's that's semi-annual.
Okay.
Biannual is every 2 years. So they would want to provide a biannual update to City Council to show performance data, and because I think one of the things that Fort Collins does really, really well on is they kind of have these sunset laws and sunset rules. So like when things go into play, they're not just like putting them hit it and quit it type deal. They're like, hey, let's revisit this in a few years, make sure that it's actually doing what we intended it to do. And that's kind of it. So, and I do want to jump into a couple of the ideas for today, or things to do this weekend. But, being a very astute driver yourself, would you see this as something that like would, benefit or cause, you annoyance as a non-local but person who's lived here for a decade?
Like the increased chances of getting a ticket? Would that annoy me? I mean, I like going through the specific areas that we know have the cameras now. Like I'm very careful about how I go through them.
Yeah.
Bad thing. So I honestly like maybe this is a blessing, and it'll just. I haven't gotten a ticket in like 3 years. Okay, but
That's good.
it was in a rental car and it was an Eaton doesn't mess around, so that doesn't even count. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd find it annoying. I think that it's overall it's a good thing. So I'm just being funny about it. But
yeah, I mean, I think like the revenue side of things, yeah, like I mean, it's the police officer was like pretty like funny about it. He goes, I know you guys have a lot of people coming in front of you and asking for money. It's not often you guys come in front of people in front of you and like, here, I'm going to generate money for you. And I think that is important. It's a self-sustaining model because I think where I think a lot of people would have issues with it is if City of Fort Collins citizens were kind of like not paying for it. Now, granted, if the data shows that like, hey, fatalities and injuries, dramatically decrease, probably worth it, right? I mean, like, there's no money that can, be placed on a human's, life. So, but not only is it potentially going to save human lives, decrease fatalities, it's self-sustaining. So they're not asking the city for money. They're just asking the city to follow rules. So those people who are breaking the rules are going to have to pay, a tax for that. And I'm sure are not going to be super pumped about it.
Right.
But if you follow the rules, don't speed, don't go through red lights, no issue. Yeah. And then like hopefully.
I don't know what company does it, but it's the insurance companies where it's like get a rate based on you, and then you like they're driving really well, and then like driving across from them is like a a kid listening to music, typing something, and so it makes me when I watch those commercials, I'm like in the middle of like the safe one and the not safe one, but like it'll encourage people like me and other people who speed to not, which is not like it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. There we had a comment. Do we get a vote on these things? No, I mean, ultimately, you can petition it if it goes through, the land development code. This is going to go through City Council. It's going to go through 2 readings. If they vote on it and pass it, it will become law. And if you are, if you want to put a petition together, you got to get about 4,000 signatures to petition it. But I don't see this one having too much pushback from the general populace. I feel like the general perception of it's going to be good if it does ultimately accomplish the goal of decrease serious injuries and fatalities. So you get to vote on these things by way of voting for your city council members. So if there's somebody who's voting not a way that you like, but it seemed like honestly across the board, there wasn't a decisive or, a dissenting vote. It was all 7 of the city council members were very much pro this policy. So let's jump in. I'm gonna let's go through some of the things to do. What's one of the biggest? Okay, here's a test for Izzy. This is live. We are live, baby, and throwing her under the bus. All right. What is one of the biggest festivals in Fort Collins all year? You can probably top 10. I would have to say it's a top 10 festival / event. Okay. Izzy on it. June 8th and 9th, Taste of Fort Collins. I don't remember who is the okay, I got you. I got you on this one. Who is the headliners?
My mom literally told me because she wants to go.
Okay, who is it?
I don't know because I didn't really
Can't remember.
Yeah.
All right. We have got Andy Grammer on stage on Saturday and Rick Ross hustling, baby, on Sunday. So that's coming up this weekend. On Friday, June 7th, 9 to 12 p.m., there is kind of a walk along the Poudre River. If you're looking at learning things, kind of nature, birds, mammals, there's going to be experts there that can help you. Free mulch day on June 8th. There's a lot of programs in Fort Collins. You can, recycle the trees and limbs and all this kind of stuff. But on June 8th, bring your truck. You can get a truckload of free mulch at 1380 Hoffman Mill Road.
Have you ever done that?
I have not. Janae wants to get mulch on the house, but she wants black mulch. So I guess I don't know if there's colored mulch or if it's just going to be your kind of like natural color mulch there.
I need some, but I'm like, how long is that line going to be? That's like how busy is it going to be? More than I thought.
I've never done it. So access to enter the event will be on northbound LeMay Avenue, and this is at 1380 Hoffman Road, and there will be people helping. So, I mean, I don't know how much mulch costs, honestly. So
it's kind of expensive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, we went to Vegas with a group of us, and there was a guy there who all he wanted was mulch money because he was remulching his entire backyard. He's like, I just need mulch money, baby. And he did not get mulch money.
That's funny.
But that's really it. That's kind of the main things that are going on. One thing that's interesting, I work out at Genesis in the mornings, and on Prospect and LeMay, there was going to be the first come and go in Fort Collins that was going to come on Prospect and LeMay, and it was kind of a big deal. And they were doing a ton of groundwork, and for whatever reason, they are selling that land.
Oh.
So I wonder if it's going to be a land lease or a land purchase with a lease back for a land lease. I don't know, but. I don't really care. I thought it was stupid that they're putting a gas station right next to a gas station. So hopefully there's something cooler, better. It's a big piece of property, and it's on one of the busiest, most important intersections of Fort Collins. But okay, we got one last question, then we'll head out today. But DB is, are they closing Linton Elementary School and why? Not anymore. As of the special meeting that happened on May 20th. They are pausing all of those school consolidations and closures now and moving forward. Now, they still have budgetary issues and things that they're going to have to come across and discuss. But Linton was one of the options to close. But at this point, Linton is going to remain open, as is all elementary schools and middle schools in Fort Collins for the time being in the Poudre School District. But big, important discussions to be had. Pay attention to governments, Poudre School District, school board elections, city council members. These are all people that, we should be paying attention to. And go. Come and Go was bought by Maverick. I think that size lot didn't fit Maverick's goals and being a mini Buc-ee's. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. That makes sense. I was just driving by today, and like all construction had stopped on that Prospect and LeMay area. And then today there was a for sale sign. So that makes sense. Appreciate you chiming in. I'm curious what's going to go there. It's a big piece of property, super important. So there you have it, brought to you. So appreciate you guys joining live. That is awesome. Some good information coming to you live. And Izzy joining us live for the first time and has a video coming out tomorrow, which is, oh, come on.
It's like it's hidden gems in Loveland, favorite eateries.
Okay. All right. Well, and we also have our live Fort Collins real estate market analysis tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Talking to you guys kind of about a tornado market and real high level. What that means is a tornado could come through a town and it could absolutely decimate one side of the street and leave the other completely intact, as is this real estate market, where there could be a house that's on the same neighborhood that sells above list price with multiple offers, and a house 3 doors down that sits for, one of 10 different reasons. But we'll talk to you guys high level about those. And then Izzy's video comes out tomorrow, Izzy and Zach's video. Yes. If you haven't watched their videos, they do great. And we've got a great team with us here at Super Real Estate Services. But we appreciate you guys joining live in Fort Collins, and join us next week at 12 o'clock noon. Who should come on next, Izzy?
Connor.
I agree. Get Connor's ass out here. He has got a great YouTube channel, but he'd be a good insight. So, all righty. Well, we will see you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
And everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow.
We're seeing you tonight for our photos. But
oh, shit. All right. She's leaving me, I guess. So, anyways, until next week, I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good day. Bye.